The German economy minister meeting today with industry groups from across the country.
Germany will run out of electricity this year. This is the shocking truth. Germany is one step away from a nationwide blackout. Considering Germany is one of the most developed countries in the world, this problem seems minor to them. However, this obstacle is turning out to be a menacing factor that is draining Germany's economy. Germany's energy crisis has sent shockwaves through Europe, threatening to shake the foundation of the continental energy supply and spark a geopolitical crisis with Russia. So what does this mean to the energy sector of Germany? The root cause of this situation has escalated with the distraction of Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2. To begin with, the pipelines were constructed to facilitate the movement of natural gas from Russia to Germany via the Baltic Sea. The continuous gas leaks and the explosion of the pipes that took place on 26 September 2022 on Nord Stream 2, the pipeline passed through the territorial waters of Denmark and Sweden. Thus, the two authorities were the first to receive first-hand information before they passed the same details to the German government for action. To make matters worse, a similar scene happened to Nord Stream 1 17 hours later after the blowing up of Nord Stream 2. This spiked an outburst in Russia and the company behind Nord Stream, Gazprom. With the reason behind the sabotage of the pipeline remaining mysterious, the Russian President Vladimir Putin framed the attack as an instrument of international terror.
Уничтожают инфраструктуру конкурентов. В данном случае имею в виду, конечно, диверсию на магистральных газопроводах Северный поток-1 и Северный поток-2.
Conversely, Gazprom has stated that the pipeline was damaged beyond repair, and it would probably take time to aid the leakage. To date, the motive behind the bombing is unknown, nor are the perpetrators unveiled, but many speculate it was politically aimed at avenging Russia's attack on Ukraine. The operation of Nord Stream has been halted with the occurrence of the Russia-Ukraine war. All countries in the European Union agreed to isolate themselves against trading with Russia, which essentially meant no buying Russian commodities. With Germany playing an integral role in the European Union, the country cut ties with Russia completely, and this is the core reason why the Nord Stream activities have been disabled. Even when Russia tries to approach Germany with cheap gas and facilitate talks aimed at fixing the Nord Stream, the German government declines the offer strongly. However, this decision came with a lot of consequences, considering Germany's dependence on natural gas from Russia was as high as 55%, a choice that has put the economy of Germany in a dilemma as the government is exploring other alternatives to break the long reliant chain on Russia. The first repercussion of this decision is a countrywide electricity shortage. As per the stats, Germany will be subjected to limited electricity for the next 2 years. Similarly, by 2025, the country will be deprived of 4 gigawatts of power capacity. Now, bearing in mind 1 gigawatt is enough to power 750,000 homes. Then that means, of course, 4 gigawatts is enough to power 3 million households. Likewise, this creates a picture of the extent of the loss the country will have to face at the expense of the shortage. What's more scary is that the country will face a bigger dent of 30 gigawatts by the year 2030. Equivalently, that's approximately 23 million households facing a power cut. The electricity deficiency is so serious that if they exceed 15% consumption, they won't make it through the winter. As a result, electricity outages and power rationing is expected to tame the consumption. On the other hand, the nuclear energy production of the country has proven to be an unfruitful adventure to counterattack the scarcity of electricity. Roughly, nuclear power plants generate only 13% of Germany's energy. This is very little compared to the increasing demand among German households. Furthermore, there have been protests aimed at shutting down nuclear power plants which cause air pollution through the emission of radioactive agents into the atmosphere. As per the CNN report, air pollution is responsible for the deaths of 9 million people globally. Ironically, the environmental groups have been staging demonstrations for a decade now, and it is not something new relating to the fact that Germany has used nuclear energy for 60 years. The historical events of nuclear turmoil that was experienced at Chernobyl, Fukushima, and 3 Mile Island gassed up these protests. Hence, the German government has been facing significant pressure on halting nuclear operations.
Germany is all set to phase out nuclear power. It is also shifting from fossil fuels to renewable energy. The country is shutting down 3 of the 6 nuclear plants that are still operating.
Since nuclear energy seems to do more bad than good, the German government began the termination of some reactors, Isar 2, Emsland, and Neckarwestheim this April. Likewise, the German government also recognized the potential danger and risk attached to the technology as they have aimed at being carbon-free by 2045. However, this agreement comes with a lot of outcomes because now the government has to find a way to replace the 13% deficit of the energy produced by the plants. As a result, the cost of electricity has hiked up significantly as shown by a 30% increase. The enormous portion attached to this rise is the lack of repair of Nord Stream 1. Sarcastically, we can ascertain Donald Trump's statement when he remarked that the Nord Stream makes Europe a Russia hostage. It is evident that Germany is in captivity amid Russia's natural gas. The correlation between natural gas and electricity is very missable, since limited natural gas supply played an active part in shooting up electricity prices. The rising cost of energy is pushing Germany's economy into potential recession. Keeping in mind that most industries in Germany use power, the adjusted price will hurt numerous industries since the operation cost is high to sustain the running of such industries. This will lead to the seizure of some sectors in which the government gets revenue through taxes, thus the government will lose its earnings. Regarding this, Germany depends on the USA for the importation of liquefied gas, and the commodity has to be shipped when supply chain issues occur. The reliance of Germany on U.S. gas has proven to be an expensive business deal, while they had the option of reverting to cheap Russian gas. The transition from Russia and now to the U.S. has made them increase their budgetary allocation in the energy sector. Correspondingly, the German government set aside $1 trillion to finance the power gap. Quite a heavy lump sum, right? Funny enough, the allocation is 3,000 times the gross domestic product of Burundi alone. Even with the enormous spending, this does not rule out the possibility of a recession. Precisely, most economists agree that the economy has experienced a deep downturn in the first 2 quarters of this year, and they conclude that the energy crisis is here to stay as the nightmare will ravage through 2024. So what does this mean to the people of Germany? Well, the Germans have to go deeper into their pockets to fund the high electricity cost for their households. This has left the low-class social structure of the German population struggling to make ends meet as the biting crisis is not looking to end anytime soon. Every day seems to be a battle of hope to such individuals, with some opting to seek alternatives to combat the situation. As part of the alternatives, some have resorted to using firewood to cook instead of using gas cylinders to save some extra coin. Specifically, consumer behavior has also changed, with many people preparing themselves psychologically for an incoming power breakdown. Likewise, the demand for candles and solar panels has skyrocketed in preparation for this disaster, with many going into the stores to facilitate a panic buy. Conversely, the cost of electricity also means the price of other commodities is high. The most alarming essential goods in this category are foodstuffs and agricultural products. A handful of agro-industries that use energy in food production have adjusted the cost of their products, making food affordability a problem to most households. As a consequence, some have resorted to skipping meals, while others have decided to utilize their land to enhance food production. The employment sector has not escaped the wrath of the energy crisis, as frequent layoffs are happening around the country. Those who underwent a job cut are now hit with a harsh trajectory of finding ways to escape poverty, a situation that has made many go into debt to feed their families. Some of the affected employees are undergoing mental disorders and depression, as each day turns out to be a misery to them. As per the stats, the unemployment rate has increased to 5.6%, and layoffs have increased to 16,000. This creates an impression that the energy crisis has a substantive impact on Germany's economy. Will the German government keep the energy crisis under control? Or are the Germans going to experience more massacres of this economic dilemma? Well, time will tell.